is it is 6:02. So let's call this meeting of the planning board to order. This is our normal monthly planning board meeting. As a quorum check. So in the room we have Joy, Cheryl, Bill, Chris, and Frank. Brad let me know he would not be here. Pat should be on Zoom, but I don't see her yet. So Joy, she may show up on Zoom. I don't know, but there's 5 of us here in the room. Me, Cheryl, Bill, Chris, and Frank. We have a new planning board member, Cheryl. Welcome, Cheryl. Thank you very much for joining. For people in the public that are here, we need more planning board members if anybody's interested. Okay, so first thing, public comment period for items not on the agenda. I know there's a number of people here tonight. We have more than we normally have at a planning board meeting. I'm assuming it's because they want to talk about something. Is there anybody that wants to say anything about anything that's not on the agenda? Yes. Yeah. Can we come up? Yes.
So we had talked to you guys, I think, a few weeks ago about the utility, right? And we had discussed acceptable uses and you know, what would be the route that we would be able to go. And we went back, did our research, and we feel like we looked at what other pet crematories, other funeral businesses have done, and said how they've worked with the same issue. And the precedent was set, I think, for pet cremation business to be recognized as a service business. But we wanted to talk, to the board and see if there's agreement, if there's not,
What's your thoughts are pretty much? I mean, what do you guys think about service business coming into Dryden?
Well, first off, I need to move back.
Sure. Yeah, no, sorry. So a couple weeks ago, we kind of hijacked a meeting. So we are looking to open a pet cremation business on
Northwood Road, 747 Northwood Road.
What the initial issue was, we were trying to find an acceptable use. Well, we initially thought that we would have to maybe
add it to your guys' have a list, because you guys have given us a list of things that we were going for something in that criteria. So as we went on, we did a little more research, like you were saying, and I looked in the town of Dryden, I looked around, and I came up with service business as something under that criteria.
In full disclosure, that I think there's a number of local businesses in the Finger Lakes area that have done the same thing. I mean, they've all, been listed as, or
I think we can certainly consider that. Is it CBA that would make that determination of that?
No, they would make a legal application. So
yeah, I found a lot of people. Yeah,
and then as I understand it, crematorium, it's a combustion process, potentially smoke and whatever to come out of the facility. So that's where I would want to see what is actually created, or what's the impact on it.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, certainly, I think that's a legitimate argument.
We have smokeless ovens. We've been looking into that as well. Basically, the smokeless oven consists of water vapor It comes out, goes through a water filtration system, just as your Perkins Funeral Home does, the same thing. Comes out and it's basically just steam. You don't even have a chimney coming out for the most part. It's an internal because all it is just steam.
So I think that's a legitimate, I think the next steps are, submit an application and.
Okay.
And sure, do a site plan review and see how it fits. I mean, could make sense to me that it might fall under that, but I don't know. I'd want a legal determination.
Here's some of the details to it.
Yeah,
We can provide all that, and we were really just coming to kind of gauge.
Okay.
Was something you guys felt out that it was, you want to work with us on, or is it something that was a definite no? We're just trying to feel out before we keep going.
No.
That's awesome. Appreciate that.
I mean, we'd have to see the site plan review, right? And look at likely, because would this need an SUP?
Well, depends on what district. I don't know where that address is.
Right, we have to look at what district, and if it's one that needs an SUP, we would need to do it.
It does need an SUP.
Yeah, so we would need to do a seeker anyway, which is the environmental impact piece, which, assuming that things meet certain criteria, we'd have to look at that, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I think your best bet is to just, put in an application and we'll get it on the agenda and see how we can look at it.
Fair enough. We really appreciate it very much.
In New York State, of course, there's a process for license and you're right, it's been services. Do you have a license in Britain?
No. So, you obviously have to get a crematorium operator's license. You take a class for that. It's basically a 50-question test, and you need to pass with an 80% pass rate, and you renew your license every 5 years. I would be the operator myself. I also work in the funeral business as a student for Zerbo Funeral Home. So that's pretty much the licensing that I'm aware of as far as our research goes.
Anyone?
We have passages that's up in Camden. We also have falls. There's a bunch. So it's a cremation service. You have obviously Bangs Funeral Home, and they do the keeper, but there's only 5 pet crematoriums in basically a 50-mile radius. But you bet also you have 35 vet clinics that they're trying to support, which to really fall in line. So we feel that we could help the community, help people with this process just to get through it. It is a tough time, people love their animals. Or, animal lovers as well. We want to be able to help people.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Sounds good. Yeah. Look forward to seeing site plan.
Excellent. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Don't forget your phone.
Yeah. Thank you again, guys.
Thank you. Anything else that's not on the agenda? Is there a hand up on Zoom? No, I don't think so. Okay.
I know, not that I see.
All right, I'll just say one more thing. So I'm assuming, show of hands, who's here to talk about 172 Echo Road? Okay. What I'm going to do with that is so this is not, just to be clear, this is an initial introduction to the project. The planning board is not going to take any action on this project tonight. We're just reviewing it and giving feedback. If people want to say something, I will let them after we do the presentation from the
York Landing Lakes.
York Landing Lakes. Thank you. I knew the name of it. I just couldn't come up with it in the moment. So we'll do that. It doesn't look like there's too many people here, but if we can keep it to 2 or 3 minutes per person, that would be good. And then we'll move through the agenda that way. Is there any other topics that people want to talk about that are public comments? Okay, good. So let's get started. Local law regarding data centers. I circulated the, so as we know, what happened with that is the town board, did not, take our recommendation, for a local law and decided instead to move forward with essentially a ban on data centers. The town lawyer drafted a version of the local law that does that. And basically I circulated it with the minutes. If people should have read it, and is there any feedback on that we can pass back up to the town board? Anybody have any comments on that?
We looked at the definitions of exactly. I think a couple of them got modified at that time,
Right.
but they were pretty minor.
Yeah. So definitions all looked okay for everybody. I mean, that would be the main thing, is making sure that the definitions are there, because really we're talking about not allowing them. So making it explicit in the code that this is not an allowed use. I think there was the definitions. We need to make sure the definitions are good. And I believe there's an entry in the use table that says they are specifically not allowed. Right? The other edit.
Well, it's going to be a prefacing statement about if we have a definition for something, you don't find it in the allowable use table, it is definitely not allowed.
Right.
So we don't want to get in the habit of listing things that are not allowed.
Right. So, but there'll be a statement in that, there's editing a statement in there that says, if it's not listed as an acceptable use, but there's a definition for it, it is definitely not. So that's where we are. So everybody's okay with what they saw. The response, I guess, back to the town board would be that we reviewed it and it looks good to us, right? Everybody's okay with that? Okay. Is anybody in the room? Pat is on Zoom. I'm assuming that she's okay with it. Pat?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Thanks.
A little loud. Sorry about that. Okay. So now we don't need to do a vote on it. Okay.
We had issues to raise.
Yeah. 53 Pickney Road. This is a site plan review for an SUP. It's an amended SUP, right?
Yep.
So have a current SUP. It's an amended SUP. So this is us reviewing the site plan and making recommendations to the town board related to the SUP. Is there anybody here to present on that?
I believe online.
Hey Tony, yeah,
Is that
good evening
Nick?
to everybody. Yeah, this is Nick. This is Nick with Bolt Storage. Great to meet you all. So you probably have already seen the drawing we sent. What we plan to do here is to expand the self-storage property that we have over there in Pickney Road for 24 additional container storage units. That's a total of approximately 3,800 square footage we will be adding here to the storage facility. We won't be disturbing much area over here. We're planning of between 5,000 and 6,000 additional impervious area for this lot. We have already shared all this with Gina, so I'm pretty sure you guys have all those numbers clear. So that's the main goal that we have over here, to add those red units that you can see on the screen, and 3 additional parking spots that, as per the code, we're gonna have to add to the property. So it's pretty straightforward. It's a similar project to the one we did last year or the year before, which are those units on the northwest side of the property. Container storage units, sheet flow for the drainage. We won't be planning for any additional stormwater systems over here, but just the sheet flow would allow us to do what we need over here.
Right.
So to point out, the one feature of the site plan is that on the southern line there, it's not really the property line because the property is being reshaped. But where it's joining the adjacent property that's kind of an inholding, they're going to be asking for a relief from the ZBA for the side yard setback. They want to put it right up against the property line. So they would be asking for 6.5 feet of forgiveness against the 7.5 foot required side yard setback.
Does it meets all other setbacks, right?
Correct.
And so we're also making a recommendation from the planning board to the zoning board of appeals. And we don't need to do secret with this, we do.
No, the town board will do
The town board will do
the
that.
recommendations,
Yep.
things for the town board to consider.
Standard questions I would have, I've heard that this has all been reviewed by fire, the fire inspectors, we have sufficient fire clearance for a fire truck to get all the way around.
Yeah, those 20-foot lanes, those radius will follow the code.
Looks pretty tight on the drawings. Not gonna change the look of the site all that much. And this is light industrial, is that the zoning here?
I'm just thinking mixed use.
Mixed use commercial, okay. And that property to the south is a communications building.
Yeah, it is mixed use.
Correct.
It's a commercial communications building.
What does the property need a SWIP now? Because it's over an acre of impervious surface. Dave did not flag that because they're not creating new impervious surface. They're putting buildings on existing gravel pad.
Oh, the gravel pads were already there.
Well, I was just making those comments based off the narrative because they have the square footage and that document is submitted on the history of the site. So the numbers over time have grown and now have gone over the acre threshold. So that's why I'm. Okay, so we should reconfirm that. As far as any SWIP requirement, right? Because the drawings didn't have any storm, right?
Other questions?
There's also a letter. You guys all read the letter, correct? Yes.
Yes.
Which is asking for the buffer to be 50 feet from each other. Which I think we should respect.
Where is the stream?
The stream is along Pinky Road, so we need that on there so we have a dimension. It's north of the site.
Right. It's north of the site. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which is on this, I think on the map you're seeing here is fairly close to that property. It doesn't show it here. It should be better around that.
So that's one recommendation is that we have the stream for the site plan.
Yes, I think I should.
For the
Not to mention the respect for 239 across the property. Yeah, right. So are you hearing that, Nick, as far as needing the count confirmed? Excuse me, confirm.
Gee. I apologize, but the audio is not that good. I believe I could only hear Tony since he's closer to the microphone. Could you repeat that again, please?
Yes, so there's a stream to the north of the property. And the county 239 review recommended a 50-foot buffer to the stream. So we'd like to have the one recommendation we have for going forward to the town board is that the site plan show the stream with a dimension of distance to the stream. Respecting the 239 review request.
Understood. I believe we had already sent one drawing showing those distances from the wetlands or streams. Sebastian, you might be here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if not, we can just put that together. But I believe we sent something similar to that to Gina.
Gina, do we have that? I mean, if the stream is to the north, none of this new stuff is going to be any closer to the stream than does exist.
Well, I believe the stream is between this facility and Pinky Road. And there is the stream indicated.
It's up front.
Down into Fall Creek.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's actually between.
Yeah.
Picnic.
It's not the main Fall Creek, it's the.
Yeah, even on Google Maps, you can't really see it
No.
on the satellite view. Okay,
You're referring to the one between the existing units and Pinckney Road?
correct.
Yeah. Yeah, we try to keep the same distance that we have to the current existing units. And we measure that. It was approximately those 50 feet you're just mentioning. But we can put that plan together and send that over to Gina for clarity for everybody.
Excuse me for a second. Might you be able to display the image on the screen here that I might be able to look at? Yeah. Can you
Could you just put that again for the site plan?
Sorry, say that again, please.
Well, I was just asking Gina to display the site plan again up on. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a 239 when I brought it up, unless it crossed that threshold. Right.
Oh, I've gotta locate it again here.
Well, that's okay. Or as we say with the available, with the segment.
It is available on the web.
It is.
It's go under projects under review and SCP.
Okay. It's here, it's coming up on the screen. It's up, it's up. Kind of get a sense of where the stream is.
We're between the units and Hickney Road, so that you see the 40-foot setback line that's drawn,
Yeah.
so it's between the units and that.
Yeah.
The issue is it doesn't clearly show it on this drawing.
Right. So I think it's fine. We our recommendation to the town, because the town board is the one that has to approve this. We're just making recommendations to the town board.
I don't see another part of the application that has the stream on it.
Drawing that has the stream on it with the dimensions. And that they should adhere or respect the 239 recommendation if they provide the 50-foot buffer. Right?
Yeah,
That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I wanted to know what the proposed storage is used for. Is it household? Is it hazardous waste? Is it what is the storage unit?
This is a self-storage facility.
It's all self-storage.
That's my understanding, right, Nick?
Self-storage, correct.
So Bolt, there's the self-storage. Bolt is the same company that has the stuff right on 13.
Right.
All that.
I just didn't understand. I didn't see anywhere with those uses that was needed before.
Yep. Okay.
Looks like there's a question on the chat from a remote attendee, or is that the same person who's just speaking?
Any resistance to approving this, assuming that they adhere to the recommendation we just did?
And we have a weigh in on that area variance.
Oh, the area. yeah, any thoughts on the area variance? If they want the area variance, keeping in mind that it's another commercial property right next to it. You think there's any issues there? It doesn't change the character of the, that's, yes. So I think we would be fine with that. But it's really up to the ZBA. It doesn't change the character of the site of the area. Not creating any extra significant traffic. Okay.
So on that east side where it says proposed fence location next to James and Amelia's lot that looks like it's over the line. The gray line coming down.
It's an internal fence. It's not, the property extends beyond that.
Right. That's a pretty big block we have over there. So we actually propose to push that fence that we currently have 10 feet away from where it currently is. And we would also bring the fence that is on the opposite side of the west side, that is going to be the trail, as well back inside to the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, the property itself is really big. They're nowhere near that back
Yeah.
property.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't look like that from the picture. Okay.
The fence from where it was, but
Yep.
they're near the back property.
Got it. Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Okay, so, what's the motion? The motion is that, we recommend to the town board, that the SUP be approved with the conditions that, they look at it, drawing that includes the stream with dimensions of and that they respect the county 239 recommendations.
Yeah, and do we have to say anything about the ZBA or?
We will. Okay. I'm doing two motions, but
And then we also have confirm whether a stormwater officer.
oh, the other one is that we have to confirm that whether or not a SWIP is needed. Because it sounds like it should be, but they didn't flag it. Yeah. So I was in the word for the town board and they do that SUP. Also, they were aware. Okay.
You'll be specific in that. This is what we did.
Yes.
Wow.
The resolution is that they need to add the stream with dimensions and respect the 239 recommendations, the county 239 recommendations, and that Ray confirmed that whether or not a SWIP is needed for this. And of course, if the SWIP is needed, then they can do it. But if it's not needed,
But we want them to follow.
that's our recommendation. Yes.
We actually want.
Yes. So that's the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Bill seconds. Any other discussion? No? All in favor? None? Pat? Thank you. Joy, it's unanimous on that one. Oh, I need to back up a second. Pat is alternate, but she has been activated for tonight's meeting, so she is voting. Because we are short, so. I should have
Yes,
said.
I vote yes.
I'm sorry, but yeah, anyway. So we need to. All right, then the second motion is that the recommendation to the ZBA is that this variance would not change the character of the area or cause any other issues. At least as the planning board sees it. Okay, that's the motion. I'll second. Okay, Chris seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor? That. Oh,
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Joy, that's unanimous as well. Okay. So, yeah, so the next step is the follow-up on those two things, and it goes to the town board for SUP. Right, or SUP amendment. Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay. 172 Ed Hill Road. This is an introduction with potential conservation subdivision. You ready?
Yeah. We going.
Good.
I need you. Are you gonna put the map up there? I did bring a couple of hard copies.
Yeah, Gina, you probably put that in third screen.
Yep, I'm gonna get up in a minute.
Is everybody familiar with where the property is?
I am. I'm assuming people are. Yep.
It's 237 acres. It currently has a single family house on it. That's the only structure. It does have quite a wetland complex. We've had 2 conversations with the wetland trust. We have 56 acres, lot 20 down in the back. You know,
Yeah, Gina. Yeah, there you go.
this is the majority of the wetlands. We have 56 acres here. The wetland trust owns to the west of us. They're looking to pick that up. We talked with them about it. So then there would be, we're proposing 19 sort of large acreage lots. Our plan eventually is to put building envelopes into the lots, but there's a lot of work to do before really figuring out where they go. The first step we got to do is flag the wetlands. They're because they're shown on the map, but that's just from mapping from DEC. They're bound to look a lot different when you actually flag them in the field. We have a guy that I work with quite a bit. The Wetland Trust has somebody who does their wetland work and has worked on their property there. So I had a phone conversation with him a week ago or so, a week and a half. He's put together a proposal to get out there and flag the wetlands for us. But we have a variety of lots, and we found that's what people are looking for. Everybody's looking for a little acreage, whether it be a home, hobby farm, some animals, fruit trees, vegetables. Everybody's seems to be the trend. They're looking. 10 acres seems to be the hot number that everybody's looking for. So that's sort of where we keyed in. There is an old railroad bed that goes down through the property. It's part of the property. It's pretty overgrown with brush.
That's labeled there, right? Yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of damming up that one side of what it looks like.
Say that again?
It's kind of forming that.
Yeah,
So that
there's some open water.
Yeah.
I think the beavers were in there, damming that.
Yeah.
So that's sort of my overview. I guess questions.
I don't think anybody that's on the planning board other than me was here for the Mill Creek subdivision road. This is kind of similar to what we did with the Mill Creek subdivision.
Yeah.
So the Mill Creek was another one, big subdivision, conservation subdivision. They defined building envelopes within the properties as far as where where this disturbance could be done, even within the lots. And that's built into the deed, right? As part of it.
Tony, I should also add though that one of our everybody's dream is to own property and do something with it, but I had to do a study where we did 1,100 acre project in the Adirondacks, and the APA wanted to know what our build ratio was. I went back through in a 10-year period. Only about 23% of the lots actually are built on with a housing with a dwelling. So like 1 in 4, basically a 25% in 10 years, is what the build ratio with our past projects. I think, Mill Creek is sort of fallen in that. It might even be less. I was surprised, but we sold that right as COVID.
I drove through there not long ago, and I was surprised at how few.
I know, I was too.
Yeah,
I was too.
because they all sold.
Right. Well, they all sold right very quickly.
Questions?
So it looks like there's a lot of existing land that's been used for farming.
Correct.
Has that been leased out to Beck Farms or?
I think the owners, we have the property under contract. I believe the current owners have had at least the backs. So, and again, somebody that buys a lot from us could lease it back to Bex and get an ag exemption on the property.
I was just wondering if it's gonna have an impact on their operation. Everybody still keep that.
We have not reached out to them yet. I've been trying to reach out to the people that own in the center of the property. They have that small lot. I've not heard back from them, but I thought maybe they bought some more land around. Sort of odd piece to be right in the center. I guess that's the old farm stead.
Yeah, that's got a really, it's really a flag on it, isn't it?
So the former one, you want? Well, no, there's.
One without the air photo.
It's not. Well, yes, yeah. So Gina, can you hear that? Can you bring up the other, it's without the, ortho photo underneath? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe it's the one with the lot lines on it.
Yeah,
There you go.
there you go. That's got the lot lines. in it.
I don't, my committee comment, it doesn't. Cover the pretty large flag.
Great, and then a lot of these newer breakups are encompassing almost the entire UNAs that designated there.
Yeah, again, some of them appear as flag lots on here, but they have the frontage too. So I had a conversation with Ray when we were here about putting the building envelope to force them to build in the back because they do have enough frontage. It's not a true, they appear flag lots of those 15 acres, but it's got 200 feet of road frontage.
Right, so they all have enough road frontage, so they're not variant. No. No, well, the only one that's a true flag lot is the one that has the existing farm on it.
Well, there's two right there.
That one, yeah. There's that one and the one that had the existing.
Lot 4 and lot 5.
Yep, lot 4 and lot 5.
Correct.
What are your feelings on the UNAs being donated for protection?
Say that again.
The unique natural areas that are identified as major parts of the subdivision.
Yes. Now that is all just came up to me. I hadn't known anything about them. They don't show up anywhere on. I mean, I went through all DECs. That's one thing I do before we.
Well, on your document, it's right there. It's on the environmental map there. It's on like 3 different maps.
The environmental.
The unique natural areas, they're on the many different county maps.
They're not on the DEC maps.
So they're county maps.
Yeah, I didn't go to the county maps. I went through DEC stuff looking for their. So I wasn't aware of them.
Yeah, I think one of them is the Trillium Wood piece, which is that square in the upper right corner that's divided up into it looks like 5 lots. I think it's like 5 lots.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is designated UNA. Yeah, there's another one in, there you go. Bottom left one, yeah.
That bottom one is 20, the 56-acre lot right here. Which is, it's islanded by this, really about that. How would you get to that piece of property?
Well, the idea would be, the piece he's talking about donating to the Wetlands Trust would be, the Wetlands Trust owns all the property to the west. So it wouldn't be islanded because it'd be like a boundary line adjustment, it'd be part of the Wetlands Trust. Right, because they already own everything
To the west.
to the west.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So Wetland Trust already has.
So it's not.
Yeah, it's not island. Right. Okay. Other questions? So this is a major subdivision. There's a number of steps we have to go through, right? Did you receive the
Application.
no, the letter from the county, what is it, what?
Environmental Management Council.
Yeah, EMC, did you see the letter from EMC?
Just saw that on the website today.
Okay.
I was on there looking at the meeting and I was,
Right.
So I literally just saw that.
So, yeah, so the way the steps in the process we have left to do, right? We'll do a preliminary plat. Or the sketch.
Yeah.
So there'll be a sketch. So there's a number of steps
Correct.
before the planning board that still have to be done. First is the sketch, right?
Yep.
And then that will be reviewing a preliminary plat, and then finding a final plat. And we have to have a public, and those are all open to the public. The preliminary and final, mandatory, right? Those are so those two are mandatory public hearings, right? So, so we at the planning board have at least 2 more public hearings to do on this, but this is going to be before us at least 3 more times before we're done, right? So, so I guess at this point, I think we've asked our questions. You now have.
I would just add it. Has your discussion with the Wetlands Trust expanded at all into lot 19? Are you?
Yeah, they thought that they should wait to see what the actual delineation, because they did inquire about purchasing more land and so forth, that there wasn't, they decided that should be held off until we actually know where the wetland boundary actually is.
Right, okay, so once it's flagged out.
Yeah.
And so that's something you're gonna have done first, right? So you'll have it flagged out and that's how you'll come up with the sketch, right?
Correct.
And then that'll go back to us.
Yeah.
For the sketch.
Yeah. Who knows with the predicted weather for the week too, because I had a conversation last week with their wetland guy, and he thought with his little snow cover and he could maybe get out there and he could delineate that wetland even this time of year, which I was actually surprised, but if we get a fair amount of snow on the ground, I think that's up the door until melt, so it could be a drawn out.
Right. Could take longer than.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I actually want to know where the Wetlands Trust, was that in products that you're talking about? It's in delineation? You know who that or how you can find it?
I'm trying to, Bob Ledford's actually facilitated, I sat in on one of the phone conversations, but I'm trying to remember, he was up on Seneca Lake, up by Seneca Lake.
Yeah, like, it's in there, that would have been the town, yeah, it would have been good, yeah, I talked to Jim too before I did. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can speak some more, but I don't want to take up all the time, I just wanted to be past that question, but when that could be done. There is some wetlands on those other properties that we showed, Rock 4 and 19, right? all of it.
Right, they're on one of the, they're at least somewhat delineated on one of the process. Yeah. Okay. Anything else from us for right now? Or I think you're.
I don't-
You're good. Go back.
Yeah, we have to look at those, where the unique areas.
Right. Okay, thank you. All right, we have a look at people on.
It's a sign of what.
Well, it's like some other, nothing the way it doesn't have.
No, I'm.
So. Brian. You want to speak? Sure. And like I said, if we can kind of keep this to 2 or 3 minutes max, that'd be good.
I'll keep it pretty short. I just want to say, my name is Brian Wendell. I am on the Environmental Management Council that did send the letter to you guys, but I'm here in my personal capacity. I know 30 years of work has gone into these unique natural areas, and there's been countless researchers that have identified these areas. And in recent years, we've actually had to delist a few of them due to development causing changes in watershed runoff and leading to changes in the botany in those areas and making them not unique natural areas. So I just want to put out support for what was proposed by the Unique Natural Area Committee within the EMC in preserving those unique natural areas. And I think that renders the property still plenty of it available so that the developers could potentially do what they propose with it while at the same time preserving those areas that I think adds value to what they're doing and the environmental value as well.
Okay. Nice. Thank you. That we got those two we already heard from. Anne. I know Anne's here.
I'm not hearing it very well, so. Yeah, I'm Ann Clark. I'm, as some people already know, I'm also on the conservation board, but I am speaking in a personal capacity at this moment. And I'm also, piece of the reputed residents of the road. But I'm trying to speak mostly as an ecologist and somebody who's very familiar with the whole roadway there. And I think there's going to be other people speaking adequately to the agricultural aspects, which I think are covered also by the comprehensive plan and so those worries. But what I'd like to say sort of overall is that one of the reasons that an agricultural area like this is valuable on beyond its own agricultural is that there's windows, there's tree connections, the UNA, the Trillium Woods itself, acts as more than a natural, very unique natural area, which it is. It's an amazing and very old community of wildflowers. But it is a stepping stone between the wetlands over in the Engle Preserve. If you think about it ecologically, this is a fairly steep drainage. It's the Owasco drainage. It has a lot of potential for contamination, but furthermore, the kinds of trees and vegetation that live and go around those fields act as important habitat for wild turkey, bobcat. I mean, all these things are, people who live there, we've been camera trapping these animals widely. I think that if you remove this, I will also say you're going to stop all deer hunting in that area. And I think people in Dryden are very aware of deer problems, and you're going to have more of them. Every single person who builds there will have deer problems because there's going to be no hunting. And we need to, at that point, fence the Trillium Woods, even if it gets set aside. So I think for many ecological reasons, of which the EMC has certainly identified some, and the Wetland Trust certainly knows the others. but for very broad ecological reasons in preserving the nature of the county and its activities. I think that we're going to lose a lot if we allow this to be broken up into lots. The fact that lots might not be built on sounds to me problematic in that essentially you're removing this land, starting a building site, and then letting it sit. And it's already wrecking some of the actual functionality, ecologically and recreationally and economically, for something that's going to then sit there. And that really even makes me, feel sick to my stomach when I think, okay, let's break it up and wait. So I have many, many points on each of the issues that this raises, but I think on the very broad, ecologically and economic and recreational spectrum for the county, this is a very bad idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Krista? Did Krista want to speak? Krista, no? Krista? Oh, sorry. So the next name I have on the list is Krista, but it says, doesn't really say if they want to speak. Krista here? Oh, you're not here on this. Okay, got it. Nancy. I know Nancy's here.
I'll have to speak.
Yes, if you want to speak, yes.
Sure. Okay. So.
Okay, I'm very conflicted about this actually, because I'm pretty conservative about making sure landowners have the use of their land in the way they want. I'm also very concerned about the UNAs, and I talked to Robert Wesley. I don't know how many of you know him. He was one of the first people to map UNAs, and he was also part of the remapping that they just did about what was in the UNAs. And he was actually more concerned about the Trilling Woods than he was about the swamp. But in regards to the swamp, I just want to note what he had said to me, that the swamp on the far side of the railway is different than the swamp on the other side. We're actually
So
a little
the
different.
swamp on the west side is different from the swamp.
Yeah, the railway basically, right, it looks like a dam, and that actually has changed the ecological nature. So the two swamps are a little different. And the swamp that I think the part they're more interested in is the area that's extending into the development areas. So that was one point. Second point, and Austin is going to point out that Beck Farms has a large silage facility there, and they are in the process of building manure pond. And I would expect that the town will have numerous complaints about the odors, which of course they can't do anything about because of the right to farm law. So just to let you know that this could be problematic. So, and I wanted also to bring up, I went to Gina to ask what we had, because I knew I was in part of the ag group when we were putting out the zoning and coming up with ag districts. And the comprehensive plan says we're trying to protect lands. And Ag and Market says that we should protect land of importance, and which these soils are. And when I went to Gina to ask about what we had actually in law, which of course you guys are constrained by yourselves, we found a definition of constrained lands: land not suitable for actual development for lots due to the presence of wetlands, floodplains, steep slopes, unique natural areas, or locally important space or land with recreational, historic, ecological, geological, habitat, scenic, or other natural resource value. Then we were trying to find, and the other definition is existing conditions report. A written report intended to document the existing conditions of a subdivision site. It should be an assessment of the site in relation to natural resources, constrained lands. So this is where that definition came in. Developable areas, other special or unique features, or any other relevant factors that may influence the design of the subdivision. Use of aerial or satellite imagery, photographs, and references to published reports of the site and condition are encouraged. For a subdivision site located in an agricultural district established pursuant to the provisions of Article 25-AA of the New York Agricultural and Markets Law, the report includes an analysis of the site's value to the agricultural economy of the town, its open space value, the consequences of conversion of viable agricultural lands for residential building lots, and the level of conversion pressure on the property. So we found the definitions. We didn't find a lot in the actual law. But it was clear that when we were working on it, these were the things that were of concern that people were trying to grapple with. And as I think of it further, the only thing I could think of that allows the landowner to still actually own and do with their land what they want would be if we had something, and this would be for the future, but if something, it struck me that if we have land in the ag district for which they get tax abatements, which these lands are, that if we can have as part of that, that if you're in the ag district to get those tax abatements, that the farmer who is renting it, in the cases that it is rental, be allowed to have a right of first refusal if the land comes up for sale. It's a wild thought. I just came with it because I couldn't think of anything else that would allow landowners to actually control what happens with their land and yet still try to protect it for an outside agricultural force. And I would also like to remind you that all the large farms in this area are based on something like about 50% of the land that they use to maintain their farms is rented land. And if they lose that rented land, the viability of the farms goes down. And that was brought out at a county, one of the county summits several years ago. So thinking of that. Good luck.
Craig. Says maybe. I'm just making. You said maybe here. So.
Yeah, well, I wanted to hear what everybody else said. I'll just say I agree with everything that's been said so far, but I also have a question. It's my understanding even digging up wild trillium in New York State is illegal. You're not even supposed to dig one up. How can you go in there with the bulldozer and put 5 houses in there and not destroy all these wonderful trillium that are in there? And that's the reason it's a unique natural area, is because it's a trillium. And I looked it up under DEC and they said, throw them right on there and said it's illegal to touch them. You aren't even supposed to pick them. So I don't know what we're doing trying to put 5 houses in the middle of that trillium.
Even if they're on your own land?
Huh?
Even if they're on your own land?
It's illegal in New York to dig them up and pick them. So that's something to think about too, with that. And as far as breaking up the farmland, I mean, these are soils of statewide importance. And in all our, the ag plan, the conservation plan, all them say we need to protect those soils for farming, for agriculture. So that's all.
Marie, you also said maybe.
I would more than support what has already been said. I will try not to repeat. That patch of land is very valuable to agriculture, to those of us who like to visit Trillium Woods in the spring. And we all know by now that breaking up habitat means ultimately destroying it. As Ian said, it's a way to keep animals and birds coming to that area, is to keep the Trillium Woods, to keep the fence breaks in the middle of that land. It would be criminal to break that up. I just can't see that happening. So, thank you.
Thank you. Marty, you're not here for one. Where's Marty? Oh, you're not. You're here for the 25th. Yeah. Right? That's what I thought. Austin.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. Thank you for the time. I'm Austin Beck, one of the owners of Beck Farms. So I'm here just to talk about on the ag side of this project. I'd start with our farm's biggest concerns with this plan. We till about 90 acres on this land. We've rented it for a long time. It's as has been stated already, it's farmland of statewide importance, right? So it has potential to grow productive crops, a corn crop of 20 tons an acre. There's 63 acres of that, which is Langford soil, moderately well drained. Is it the best soil we work? No, but is it extremely valuable? Yes. 22 acres of it is prime farmland if drained, right? So a little drainage work, and it would be classified by New York State as prime farmland, right? Replacing these acres, if we were to lose 90 acres tillable, there's nowhere within 10 miles of our farm that we're going to get that. So 10, 15 miles away. Right now, it's a hop, skip, jump from that land to our farmstead. So replacing that 10 to 15 miles away, that's over 200 tractor trailer loads of feed, of manure that we're putting on the road to 10 to 15 miles. That's a big deal. That's a huge inefficiency. We've always been proponents of trying to move manure through pipeline and not on the road for the safety of our people, the safety of people on the road, the fuel, right, all of the above. It's really easy to see the potential for future conflicts with 19 houses across the road. We are building a new parlor in a cow barn. We're going to milk 4,000 cows on this site. The new bunk facilities, which is partially built already, we built 2 corn bunks this summer, 2 storages. They're less than 200 feet away from the first lot, right? So if you're sitting down there across from that hill to the east, 200 feet away is the first bunk. The water treatment, which is already in, is less than 200 feet away from those lots across from that hill. And they're only going to get bigger. We're not necessarily building manure storage yet, but there is slated to be an 8 million gallon storage across the road. As you all know, we work 24/7, 365. So we work early in the morning, we work on Christmas, we work on Easter, we work every day. We don't stop because it's dark. We don't stop because it's early. We don't stop because it's late. We work when we have to get the crops in because that's our livelihood. And so having 19 homes across the road is going to be a problem when the dust is flying and it's windy and they're out trying to mow their lawn or play with their kids. It's going to be problem after problem with neighbor relations. We strive to do our due diligence to be good neighbors and to be good members of the community. And this is going to challenge that every single day.
Last question.
Absolutely.
There's several parts of your farm that actually abut residential areas.
I'm sorry.
There's several parts of your farm that actually abut residential areas. Like you have neighbors.
Oh, we have neighbors.
There's houses. Yeah.
Yes, we have plenty of neighbors, and it's only getting more challenging, right? Housing development is, along with solar, one of our biggest challenges with land. Yes. It's obvious the soil is extremely important. When you develop soil, you don't get it back. We only have so much of that. So to me, it's a little concerning being a member of Dryden, sitting on the ag committee, what Dryden's planning goals are. Because if we turn to the comprehensive plan and the way Dryden sees their future, right, the guiding principle is that we want to, conserve the viability of the town's ag community, its important natural areas, the open space, the sensitive environmental areas. Subdividing this property does this against every single one of those guiding principles. Goal open space, goal number 2, protect the town's open space resources. And we've already touched on that. I don't need to touch more on it. Goal number 3, preserve, promote, and support the town's ag plans. It is 200 feet from the town's largest dairy, and the value of what we help in this economy locally to Dryden is huge. And if we see this go through, it's a kick to dairy farming in Dryden because it works completely against what we strive or what we say we strive to do in Dryden, which is promote agriculture. That's why people live in Dryden, to live in this scenery, right? We're still trying to promote that ourselves, but if Dryden's not behind us in planning, then I'm not sure why we wrote the comprehensive plan. If it doesn't mean anything, then why did we write it? I understand the challenges of telling people what they can and can't do with their land. I feel the same. But when it comes to prime soils that you cannot get back in agriculture, has challenges on every side of the business, it's more important now than ever for Dryden to support agriculture. So that's all I have. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Awesome. I gotta ask you this. This is a big question. We'll start. When you're right side or companies. We heard earlier. And that's not that's so really part of where that we go. And I mean, we need this discussion. This is something we got to figure out how to phrase. Looks like so much of what's doing is we say, base it on sale, well, that say you can develop this much land, you've got to concentrate on 20 lots and we 100 acres, but 10 acres for development, 90 acres open. What is the right thing to do? Nancy brought this up. You're conflicted on this problem. Conflicted on this. Yeah.
Well, and the other piece of that is
conservation development has possibility, which does.
Well, that's what we're talking about here, actually.
Business. But if you wanted to say there would be 20 lots, there could be 21 acre lots in one place and leave the remainder to be used as a conservation district.
Like 80 acres.
I mean, we do have stuff in the law about having conservation development.
And that's actually what we're talking about here, the conservation subdivision. But the other piece of this is the comprehensive plan also talks about housing. And so there's housing is a big section of the comprehensive plan and providing housing. So I get what you're saying, but there's different, there's some conflict going on there that they're gonna.
I have a look here, yeah, we got Will.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly that Dryden has a problem. We have a conflict of interest here, right? You know, we want to see growth in Dryden. We want to see affordable housing. We want to see agriculture succeed. No, it's a bridge we have to cross probably sooner than later, as soon as, you know, as we're drafting planning. I think there's a way that we can build affordable housing, but I think it needs to be strategic. And I think the comprehensive plan touches on that a little bit about where to build the strategic housing. And it needs to be, you know, we are in Western New York, right? There's blocks of 400-acre chunks that farms will work. And, you know, they have no issues, right? Here, we have 300 and some fields that we work. The average acre size of those fields is 7.5 acres. So we're already fragmented. We will never have those efficiencies that the Western New York area has. So those are the challenges we have. So when we develop housing, I do agree that there could be ways we can block it and limit the lot sizes, but I still firmly believe that we can't place them in prime soils because you always want to work with prime soils. And as soon as you take away that soil, then we're not touching anything else. And it has to be a way that ideally keeps us efficient. Because we can't go and work between 3 houses on 2-acre chunks. Right? We work for 1,300 acres, and time is money. We can't. And we have to remain efficient. So all of that plays a balance in how Dryden plans for housing. I don't have all the answers by any means, but I would love to be part of the discussion. Thank you.
It's in the Don. Small. And go. But okay. I don't want to. And then Matt Young is the last one.
With no dance, I'm Matt Young.
Did you want to speak?
Sure.
Yes.
Thanks for the chance to speak. I guess I wear a few different hats. I do sit on the board, as I said, at the Wetland Trust. I have talked to Jim and Jim some red thoughts that could do the hired as the surveyor out there. Because there are additional wetlands, as was mentioned or listed on the map. Lot 20 is supposed to be conveyed to the TWT, the Wetland Trust. Lot 19 has significant amount of wetlands on it. And from a UNA perspective, you know, this site is known historically as the Food Fir Tree Swamp. I was the one that was in there and did the surveys, the last surveys on the Fir Tree Swamp. I also did the third surveys on the TWT wetland side, and it's still easily the most significant Fir Tree Swamp I've seen left in central New York. It's balsam fir, typically found in the Adirondacks. It's very Adirondacky out there. So I'm mostly interested in just seeing the wetlands piece of this, protected with some buffer. And it's, you know, it's nice that the one lot's going to be conveyed to TWT, but I do think there's other wetlands there that hopefully could be too. Just for a buffer perspective, you know, having houses with that kind of septic system potentially have an effluent into the swamp isn't the best idea if it's too close. Because this is known that that Fir Tree Swamp, which is the drainage divide between, you know, Alaska Lake and Cuba Lake, is, you know, it's known as the best burning wetland also in the area. And that's really kind of all I have to say at this point. But you know, there's a lot of uniqueness out there, and I think it's important to protect these wetlands. So hopefully we get a survey done, and maybe some more could be conveyed over the Wetland Trust, particularly lot 4 and I guess 19 there. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. That's all I have. Anybody else that want to talk on this? Something? Anybody on Zoom? Okay. Hearing none, I think we'll move on. Then. Thank you all for your input.
I have.
Go ahead.
So if anybody can answer, how is it that Trillium Woods been preserved up till now? Seems like it's just like all of a sudden we developed, it's been preserved. It sounds like it's a wonderful spot and I find to see it's just left alone. But how was that possible? The owner, the original one, the previous owners. But they just didn't do it.
People cared for the land. It has been somewhat lost. I think about 20 years ago, and also about 6 years ago, there was some small amount of water. It's very wet, and I think what people, there's a theme running through that hasn't been brought out, is that, except for what Matt just said, this whole place drains into the headwaters of the Wasco Lake, and that includes Trillium Woods, which runs a stream into the adjoining field. And it itself is very bad, but I think it's been, in that sense, probably would have been a challenge to develop the law or take stuff out of anyway. And it's a recognized feature. There's a little girl named Trillium in Dryden who goes and visits there on her birthday every year. I met her.
And Robert wanted to make sure people know that it's not just Trillium. Oh, yes, there are a number of very rare plants in that little area. Because it's a special kind of ecological place that has not been allowed to exist in places. In a lot of places it would have been logged and filled or drained or but this has been allowed to be, and it's the densest place for native flowers and plants in the earth.
It speaks to the fact that the deer have been kept just low enough that they have not come back. This is something that's immediately lost by deer population. Seems the pile.
And for our wetland expert, how was development? It's the swamp is obviously a downhill section for the rest of the area. How would development affect that? Wouldn't that change the weather? Absolutely. So drainage is kind of negative impact. That's my biggest concern. You ever throw that railroad that is, the last wet. And I'm not exactly sure where the fir tree swamp in there is somewhere, I think, along the lines of lot 1 and 4. And like I said, it's the largest fir tree swamp left. It's in the top 2 largest fir tree swamps. It's and you see the rather population of the Adirondacks. And a lot of them destroyed. There's a little bit of Boston fir in there as well. I mean, it's cool, and it's incredibly highly burdened still. And there's also a continuing, there's a windshield for learning out on this land as well. With, no windshield. So I just kind of worried about, the amount of development. I get it, and it, develop in some areas, but how many buildings? Totally 15 lots, 20 lots, a lot of lots. And one more question, just to balance my question, seeing like taking one side or another. Mr. Beck, your farming practices, how does that impact the wetland? What kind of practices do you look for to make sure you're not negatively impacted?
Sure. So today it's grass sealed. So we would top grass from there. So that's strictly revolved around practices. The best management practices we would follow anywhere. So fewer timing, how we apply it, the rate at which we apply it, we're following responsible for the rates. Up with timing, so we would go out there, spread 3 hours before this each front comes in and goes 2 inches of rain on the spray. We can and we inject a lot of them directly in the ground. So it doesn't matter daylight. So that controls where the manure goes, put it right where it needs to go, and doesn't need to field. And following strict setbacks. So everybody that applies manure on our farm has had training, and they have a set of maps in every piece of equipment that would go out there that shows clearly any sensitive areas, so wells, surface water, road ditches that might be sensitive issues. So they're strictly set back 100 feet from any well, the questions asked, 100 foot from any surface water, and strict, different rules. If it's injected, you can get a little closer, but those are the rules that are pretty involved on a daily basis.
Thank you. And for the developer, what is the target market for these parcels? This is obviously not people that are looking for affordable housing. They're going to be people of needs.
People looking for elbow room. I'm not really involved in the direct. I'm a land surveyor. I work for New York Land Lakes.
Okay.
So I'm not.
Just a quick underline of the relationship of hay fields in particular. We own the land that's directly across from the lower hay fields that are on the north side of the road, and which are now in wetland trust property and preserved as grassland, which is bird. It is endangered bird habitat, if you will. And the Beck Farms has been actually a really good neighbor to that. In general, birds obviously go back and forth while grasses are high, and they've been willing to hold off on mowing. There's little delicate things you can do for bird populations when they're nesting. You've got bottling and eastern meadowlark in there, which are both on the uncommon rare now, and they've been able to sometimes adjust their mowing on a particular field just to let a few more bird nests get off and when they nesting. So I'm just going to say that is an it's an ecologically good balance between conservation and farming, that kind of land use because of those farms. Because of those farms, yes.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you all. So anyway, so people know that, like I said, there's many more steps in this. There's going to be more public hearings. We have to have these 2 mandatory public hearings before it's all finalized. And as we said tonight, planning board is not taking. Next agenda item is 2150 Drive Road. Marty, you're back.
I am. Okay, thanks for having us tonight. My name is Marty Mosley. I am with Municipal Relations Consulting. Gary Bush, who unfortunately had to jump off the meeting, was here digitally or remotely. And
hold on 1 second. If people are going to talk, can they please go out outside and can see it.
Yeah.
Nancy. I need to be able to hear what's going on up front here. Sorry.
Yeah.
I need a gavel. Yeah. Sorry, Marty. I didn't want. I was having a really hard time hearing what you were saying. So
understandable.
Go ahead.
So Gary Bush, Respect Consulting, was the gentleman who has drawn up the plans that you see on the screen and right in front of you as well. Obviously, it's been a little bit since we've been here. So as a precursor, Neil is the tenant. He's off to my right on your left. And the owner is Ron Szymanski. He's on my left and your right.
Hi, Ron.
Hi.
So we've updated the narrative a little bit based on what we came with last time we were here. There were some comments about drainage around the building. So what we did is we proposed to utilize the existing gravel parking area that is already in existence. It kind of looks like a square area that is on the east side of the buildings. So again, no disturbance. We're using existing gravel for vehicle repair waiting area, essentially. We demarcated the parking areas to identify on the existing paved / concrete area, 12 spaces. A couple of those spaces under the portico area right now are proposed as handicap accessible spaces as well. So, in addition, any of the underlying verbiage in the narrative is updated just for your information. We did also, Gary took a measurement of the drive access, and it is roughly 20 feet at this point in time. In addition, we proposed some turnouts to better facilitate some of the vehicle access associated with emergency response vehicles. In the event that that does happen, hopefully it doesn't happen. In addition, we also showed on the site plan a proposed well area as requested and on-site wastewater treatment facility location as well. So that's placed on the site plan. And then signage, we don't have anything right now as far as a proposal. Emil has indicated that he does want to have a sign, so people can actually find him someday. And but we just don't have any details on that at this point in time. We did provide some additional items on exterior lighting. Roughly, we're in between 2,700 and 5,000 Kelvin. So that's approximately the color temperature they are now. And as you can see from the images that we provided to you, you can see some of those wall packs on that building as it stands now. Hopefully I'm okay with.
Right, I'm trying to remember, as I recall, the biggest things that came up when you were here before had to do with fire access, which you talked about, the road going back. There was a concern about the existing SUP for the solar panels, whether or not the out that gate by the road was supposed to be locked as part of that SUP.
Yeah, and I think the individual 5 solar lots have their own access gates.
Yeah, that's not an
So we still need, you provided the chart and sign off.
Yes.
Yeah, I have one signed document in the cell tower. The other one's coming in from, and what it just says is that they're aware of the fact that that road is going to be used for auto repair.
Right.
And both parties, both the solar farm and the cell tower, have agreed that that's not going to be an issue. Okay. So, and we have a signed document. The other one will be coming in next week. To that extent that they're
right. We can't on this tonight because we don't have a complete application, right? But so the idea tonight really is just get some detail, right? So,
yeah.
So so that because I'm trying to remember all the points. I was going back and reading my notes earlier in the week, and then the other issue, which I think you addressed, is the fact that the buildings as they were essentially farm buildings. They weren't up to code for an auto repair business because they didn't have facilities like restroom facilities. Right.
Right, which was the intent of showing the on-site wastewater treatment system.
Right.
So
you're going to put a well in. So you're actually going to put facilities.
Yeah, of course.
Building. Were there any other building codes?
Well, they'll have to. Yeah, building permit because of change of use. So there may be things like drainage. So for
yeah, I mean, I'm sure that the town code enforcement division will work with Emil on getting them to say everything's up to code. I mean, there's administrative procedures specific to that. So
because that building when it was built was really just a pole barn, right? It's an ag building. Right.
Yeah. So wrong. The other one was not. Right. It's a little sketchy to be honest. From my understanding, Dryden looked at it as an agricultural building. It's one of the nicest agricultural buildings I've ever been in. To be honest with you, like concrete floors, finished walls on the interior, metal wise. I grew up on a 110 cow dairy farm. I would have killed to have a agricultural building like that. To be 100% honest. So with that respect, yes, it was agricultural. It is a reuse of an existing building, obviously, so that's a benefit because it's less of an impact, obviously, for just impact wise as square footage or any environmental impacts that may occur.
And this is an allowed use in the well.
Yep, by special use permit.
Special use permit.
And
And
I
so,
know you put in the narrative about the, like a P2, type 2 for seeker, and I don't think that really applies, because this is never undergone an environmental review, but our is in there, the ag and markets.
right,
There.
so we didn't have to do it.
Environmental review on that. So having, some seeker review would be appropriate for this. Rather than put it in.
And we have submitted a secret for you with the mapping, obviously, from the EAF as well, just in the event that you did proceed with that. Just a point of clarification, who's the lead agency? Is it town board or is it planning board? And the
SCP, it's town board. So, yeah, generally the way it works is, the town board usually wants us to review the site plans and then make recommendations to them for the SCP review. Yeah, so we aren't gonna, our action will be making recommendations to the town board.
Sure.
I'm assuming the town board's gonna want us to do that. Right?
Absolutely, yeah, because you think your insights are great, and that film is, it seemed like it really gets to this industry.
Yeah.
The road.
Yeah, oh, yeah, it's just way back in there, that's for sure.
Not the greatest thing for compacting, but
Yeah. It's certainly not visible from the road. This sounded was back there, but
yeah, you can see a roof line or two.
yeah.
So, Tony, yep, there was a laundry list of things that they haven't addressed from the last time they're here.
Okay.
That were brought up. Fire is the big one, because they had a formal complaint basically about money issues. The road, also the whole road in general is called into question by many people. I think Greg, former members of the board brought up. Now that this has gone through multiple different SUP programs, there's a discussion of, is it a major subdivision now, based on the amount of tenants that are there from the original SUP. There was also the wetland protection and storm improvements. So there were a couple members of the board that did go onto the site that were a part of the board when the original solar plant plan was put in the wetlands and the kind of adjusted belt stormwater controls that were put in that were not. There was no approvals for any of that run by NTC or any of the wetlands. So there was a bunch of stuff that was given at the April meeting that we haven't seen.
So I think to address the fire aspect, I had extensive conversations with the code enforcement division. I provided them with guidance from New York State because we had contacted New York State Division of Building Standards and Code specifically, which then identified based on the existing conditions that technically Section 503 actually cannot apply in this situation. So we're proposing to add additional turnouts, which isn't technically required by New York State Fire Code, but to appease and provide some additional mechanisms for the fire chief and any other emergency vehicle that's coming out there. So we did just dig into that quite heavily, and I did send that information over because it's administrative. I didn't include it in the packet. I sent it to the fire official, which is Mr. Sprout, I believe, in this situation.
Yeah, but I think they had some concerns about the buildings and getting.
Correct. All the sections that the fire chief identified are Section 503 and Appendix D out of the New York State Fire Code, and those were the sections that we asked New York State for guidance on, and they provided guidance back, identifying that even though this is an existing roadway that did or didn't get approval, depending on the way you look at it, it's still in existence. And because it's in existence, the change in occupancy would not trigger review under the fire code. Now, if in fact someone were to say we want to add on to that, then it would trigger a full review under Section 503, was the way it was explained to me.
Yeah. Okay. So that we don't have a fire code enforcement issue here. I think it's so within the purview of the court to support health and safety of the community.
Right.
And to require like proof rolling and verifying that we have 20-foot widths so that our huge investment of $1 piece of equipment going down there is not. I think one of the other big ones related to the road is kind of how it fit with that, the whole subdivision. I think that was one that pointed out, is it a major subdivision or not, based on the amount of different uses that are there now. And that was, I think that was something we brought up and we didn't get an answer back on. I don't know if that's in your purview, but
I don't, yeah, I don't, we're not proposing the subdivision as part of this process, so I'm not, I don't think it's, with all honesty, I don't think it's within our purview to opine on that matter, just because we're not proposing a subdivision at this time. I think if I remember correctly, what Craig was identifying is he believed maybe the subdivision shouldn't have occurred in the manner that it did last time because it exists now and it should have had an upgraded road. So I think
my understanding was my trigger. Yeah, trigger. That's a change use now.
a change in use though in your subdivision law doesn't specifically refer to a change in use triggering the review of a subdivision at that time though. So that's why I'm a little confused on it. If we're subdividing, I would completely understand you're proposing a subdivision. That's another reason that we brought Gary from Spec Consulting as an engineer on board to be able to provide guidance on some additional turnouts and construction of those turnouts as well, and any improvements to the road system that may be necessary.
And you are in communication with the fire department and making sure that they're okay with it.
We're in communication with Mr. Sprout and the codes division in anticipation that they are conveying our messages.
But yeah, we saw the original comment. Yeah, that's why we have the original.
But that is the proposed reason, or that's the reason why we propose the additional turnouts, is to provide additional area for access to proceed in that fashion. That way a vehicle could pull off and another vehicle could come by in the event that there is an emergency vehicle trying to get through, or even two emergency vehicles trying to pass through at any given time.
That's a little tricky thing for us is that original SOP that was done. And where the changes, I think that's what I was kind of, like one of my notes, that question.
Yeah.
Like, how do we look at the original one versus now what needs to get triggered? I don't know if that's, for me, I don't know if that's been clear. Okay, so the way I look at this is we already have a major subdivision, there's 5 lots in there. And this is a lease lot within one of those, so I don't see it as another subdivision. Right. If there is a what's that? Yeah. But there's a compatibility issue and that can be addressed through the SUP process, because the lot now is being asked to have both a solar and a locomotive garage. So that's the. Well, that's on the. So there's 2 uses on a single. Yes.
In this case, it's right. Right now, that's a separate.
The only thing that I see here that I remember bringing itself last time, I don't really see address, but I get to see here the word address is the fact that what is a lot of that, right? And storage of oils comes through the way through there. So I would like to see like what you're putting into the data still, it's not going to bring down that. And I don't think that's the best. See here we go. Yeah, correct. I do remember you asking that question on April, and what you said is that he does have a program for handling all of those. Any of the fluids that are in.
Yeah, all the fluids are stored in food grade containers and until they get extracted.
They're outside in the parking.
They're in front of the building, yes. So that way we don't have possibility of spilling while trying to move them further away.
The side portico that you can probably place them under though, is that correct?
I mean, I can place them in a lot of different places.
Well, I'm just saying a roof structure, so there's.
I think we'll address this, but I think that's one of the concerns I had then, and it's something we're gonna.
Right, I'm sure we can find a roofed area to minimize any sort of rain that could get into it.
No, we can't get into it.
Run off with oil.
Sure.
Contaminated.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and previously, I think one of the items that you as the board had identified was putting in a berm, but we proposed to move all of those cars, so we didn't propose a berm because we're moving them. And therefore it'd be on a flat surface, and
so situated solves 2 problems. One is
runoff, and the other one is access to emergency vehicles if they were to come close to the building, so that way there's nothing blocking around it. Because originally cars were parked on the side of the road and the side of the building and in the back of the building. So I moved all the cars down to the lower section. That way they just sit flat until they're ready to be, fixed.
It would improve the hose pull areas for the departments.
So this is a currently operating business?
It was until, I don't remember when it was.
November.
Yeah. So
yes, we're looking to approve something that we learned.
It was an operation, the operation ceased, they're awaiting approval to restart the business. So Emilio had started operating, was not aware that he needed to have approvals and was contacted by Dryden, then told him that you need to come in and get some approvals from multiple boards. And so that's how he came to be in front of you all and eventually town board.
In and out. Yeah.
Thank you. There were complaints of not being licensed by the state as part of the area.
I am licensed and I can provide them all facility numbers and everything.
I'm just going by date.
Yeah. No, I was licensed since 19, so.
It's not really up to us. No, like he'll have to change his DMV license over this location.
Well, I think the things that were just brought up, I think the fluid stuff you just brought up, I think we need to see that. Most of it's there, right? They answered the questions, most of the questions you had, right? I think most of it's already on there, but we need a completed application. We don't have a completed application yet, so it's.
What are you lacking? I'm just making sure we get you what you need.
Yeah, so you've been scrambling to supply some things this week, and that was a lot of just transferring the old application forward. Well, it needs something more to connect Ron's signature rather than just copying the old application. Patching that.
We can get an updated document for you, a new, so a designated agent letter. A designated agent letter.
That would cover that.
Okay.
And just get everything legitimately updated to the current, since that was a year.
Yeah, and should work with Gina she can let you know if there's anything that's still missing.
Okay.
But the idea would be to have, because we need to look at this again, I would assume next month.
I would hope so.
If we have all that and can look at it. And then we can make our recommendations, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, if you are going to have a road sign, you might want to make sure that's a part of that.
Correct. Yeah, that was going to be the last.
You don't want to.
Yeah. Somebody on standby waiting for my vector file until set it all up. So I'm just waiting.
So would be like the profile, what that would look like, essentially, schematic. Or
it should be on the drawing as to where it's going to be.
Probably didn't exist, and there's another sign already on the private road.
Written description of what it, like, how big is it, what style is it? I think there are requirements within the sign.
Yeah, monument style sign.
There was a sign that was somebody built existing a while back. So instead of going through trouble with building another one, I just figured fix that one up and just reuse.
Okay. Or just check whether it's on Ron's property or DOT. So if it's on DOT's, then you can get a DOT permit.
Yeah, so it was the sign, when LPM was selling, it was the for sale sign. And it was so it was not on DOT property.
Okay. It was not on your site plan.
That's why it needs to be on the site plan. We need to see on the site plan. We need to see where it is, and then a description. Like you don't necessarily need to do a drawing of the sign, but just what is the type and size of the sign? Because the sign ordinance does have restrictions.
Sure.
On size.
Okay. So mitigation of fluids, completion of the application, and then sign placement and location, and description of what it is.
So I know some communities have really strict signage Well, there's square footage limit and the monument style. Those are the two main things, and then as long as it's not being lit.
Right.
So
If it's not being lit, then we get into like dark sky kind of.
you say as long as it's not being lit?
Right, you know, the light is gonna have to be dark sky compliant, downward facing.
Yeah, okay.
Downward facing lighting, so you're not. Doing the light side. There are limitations on the size and the size of the sign.
That's in the table.
The only other comment I'd have is that there was a lot of conversation about the road. I do see you again working on that part, but there were concerns about, and as Chris mentioned, that there were areas where the original like flows were blocked because they caved in because the road needed to be upgraded at very few culverts that had kind of collapsed. And we're discussing this last time. I just want to make sure that the road is.
We can take a look.
Yeah, so, as long as we can.
And I was just, that driveway, which was used by RPM, between RPM and building of the solar farm, plenty of tractor trailers with lots of load on that road. Yeah, so, it's not.
I'm assuming that if they're working with fire code, as long as we have the information from the fire, from Dave Kraus about, their compliance with fire code and it's okay with fire, I think that's really what we need. Right?
Well, this was more about the separation to that.
Right.
Well, we get that.
Right, we want to make sure there's not a concern about that previously. So we'll take a look and make sure that the culverts are open, and that they're not collapsed, so we'll verify that.
And then Ron, you're gonna be working with solar owners to.
Well, yeah, and I would just, I can tell you this, I already had the conversations, I already have one document signed, the other one is going to be signed. There was not any, just so everyone knows too. The players have kind of changed, the original, you remember the distributed selling, it's been rolled over to Altus.
Yeah.
The people that talk about it,
Fourth one, right?
Altus Power, what's that?
It's like the third or fourth one.
It's like the third, the third one, okay, but, I talked with them and they, even going back to the original part about the gate being locked, they have no issue with that because the solar farm is, they have the gates on the solar section, so they don't feel that there's any,
So they're fine.
yeah, they're fine with that.
It's just something, I know in the last conversation, was one thing that came up was how does this fit with the original SCP for the solar, right? It's something that's not specifically specified. Right.
It was, but now if you have the new players, because I'm new owner, I've had between candid conversations and they don't have any issues and there's insurances. I have, my insurance, by the way, so I have an umbrella for things that might happen. They have insurances, so there's other coverages, and so they're not concerned about that use. But they did want to be aware of it because they weren't aware because they weren't originally involved with the SUP, right? Right. Because they're new. So some of the people I spoke with, Altus is a large operation, so I had to even bring the people on to us. I took up the original survey. I said, "Here's a survey. This is what I'm talking about." And they go, "Oh yeah." Because those people never saw it. So I looked at it and I explained to them what's going on and how all of it was developed. And they go, yeah, we don't see any issues with that usage. So, but I wanted to sign up. I said, I want you to sign up on that. And so I have one, the other one needs to come.
Okay, right. Yeah.
And you made sure with this in your narrative, but there's could be some maintenance agreement to ensure that it's kept open for an operating business.
Correct. And that is actually in this document.
Okay.
So I believe that's in the document from the owner then. And yes, specifically, did you want something in the narrative talking about that?
Well, just to have this board and the town board assure that there is going to be some responsible party for the maintenance, so that, again, for fire access, they don't have to be worried about this and that.
Right. So we'll fuck that out a little bit.
And then do you know if there's any need to bring DOT into this for the permit for the road cut?
I don't think
used to
there's no new road cut though.
There's no uses there. I don't know, any road permit for RPM's operation, and that's when it's been explored.
Well, I mean, if that were the case, then they didn't issue a road cut permit for the solar facilities and the amount of truck traffic and vehicles they went in there with. But I'm not aware that typically DOT takes a look at the change in use side in specific. If they did, I couldn't imagine how busy their department would be throughout the entire state of New York, to be honest.
I can't see us producing.
Right.
Traffic.
No, we also have the traffic study in here, or just an analysis based on the engineering analysis for that, so it's a pretty low count.
Yeah, I'm not your typical repair shop like you see everywhere else.
When the solar farm was being built, there was a lot of traffic.
I would imagine so.
Oh, yeah. Actually, no, the construction company, the guy who was the head of the construction for solar. So I was quite aware of that.
But that was temporary, right? That's the other thing. This is ultimately far more permanent.
Well, yeah.
But still, this doesn't seem to be a business that's going to generate.
Yeah, I think we identified something about 2 to 5 vehicle trips per day based on what his operation anticipated. But overall, if you look at the vehicle trip traffic, they're talking mainly just under 11 and a half peak vehicle trips. I mean, typically, so you're not talking, even if you went with the engineering standard that anyone would take a look at when providing you with an analysis, they're going to run with the 11.47 trips at peak.
Anything else?
I've got a list here. Can I just be clear though about the wetland? The only thing you're concerned about is that part that we're driving over, because the wetland isn't close to the actual repair.
That was he was commenting that the construction that disturbed a pathway between the two.
Right.
Yes, and over there. Pictures.
Okay, we'll double check. We'll just do another site visit and make sure that everything's open and flowing properly.
We talked about the pipes underneath. Oh, it's flowing. Every time
We'll double
you
check.
can see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no questions here. Pat, any questions? You good? She's still on.
And then next month's meeting is.
I'm still here. Since I'm so new and I've never seen this before, I just want to make sure I understand what I'm seeing. So this is a solar farm?
No, it's an auto repair business that's in some existing buildings back in the middle of the solar farm.
Okay, so the entire property line in white dashed up in the top left picture is shown on our zoning map as rural agriculture.
Yes.
Is that we're not violating anything because of that district, are we? I'm sorry, is that a no?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
It's a rural agriculture district.
Violating anything.
It's a farm, but.
Right, we're not violating anything because in this zone, auto repair businesses are allowed with an SUP.
Okay, and that's what we're going for now.
That's what we're doing, the site plan review to make recommendations to the town board for an SUP. Right.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. That was my main question, though. The gentleman, it was a little hard to hear on Zoom. The 1.7, did you say that was vehicles per hour would be on the road?
No, it's a 11.47 is the peak trips that would occur in
per day, right?
Yeah, but that's the peak trips. So let me be clear is that when you do a peak trips, that's the most at any given one time is going to come out of that facility based on an engineering document for trip analysis, right? So that's what it means. It doesn't mean that's the total number that would occur. That's the peak trips that would occur, which comes into effect typically when you pull out of the driveway and then look at intersections to see if the intersections would or would not fail based on stacking. They grade them A through F, I believe, Ray, if I'm remembering correctly. And typically when they fail, and then you have to identify how you're going to come up with them. You see those more often than not in intersections or something that's signalized, always stops, something of that nature. So they'll look at those types of situations to say, is this a failure rate and does it need to be improved? And then how should it be improved?
Right.
Okay. So the SUP is just for that black dashed
Correct.
polygram. Okay.
There's already an SUP in place for the solar farms and for the cell tower. There's also down towards 13. There's a gray square on the map. That's a cell tower. So there's a separate SUP for that, and there's a separate SUP for the solar.
Oh, that square there.
That square is a cell tower.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
this thing's already been subdivided for the solar farms and everything. So we're not re-subdividing it. It's just this is a different use on one of the subdivided lots.
Great. Thank you again for the clarification.
I just had a quick question. Is there room for two-way traffic? If you have somebody coming or leaving,
That's what the turnouts are.
I mean, with a 20 foot path, your typical drive lanes on your roads are 10 feet for the most part. But with the additional turnouts, it's additional room in the event something were to happen.
Like with a large vehicle and fire truck.
Correct. Right. That's the idea behind those turnout.
We pass each other fine.
Right.
Small, even trucks probably.
Trucks do okay.
You got something like a big fire truck. That's what the turnouts.
mostly thinking about, the access in and out on Route 13.
Right.
Making sure you
Yes.
have someone trying to leave and someone trying to get in, they could do so.
Yes.
Safe.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. All right. I think you got what you need. I think.
Yeah, we have our list. We'll be back next month hopefully. And
Yeah, so that the actual date of that is
26th.
Right? Yes, 1/6. Thank you.
6 p.m.
Yes. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you guys. Hopefully we're almost done.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, next on the agenda is zone rewrite. The only thing I want to talk about there is, so I had a conversation. Oh, yeah, that's the projector. It's actually that, it's not computer really, it's the projector. Yeah, we need a big TV screen. We do need a better projector. Yeah. It is hard, like especially these maps, it's hard to see. I know that's why I did it on my computer because it's easier to see. It is. Yeah. So zoning rewrite. All right. So I had a conversation with Nan this week. I'm very concerned because it took us 3 months to get through definitions. And with what we have left, I don't want it to take 6 months for us to get through the remaining pieces. But we essentially got through the easy part, right? So I have a comment on that though. So instead of going through it line by line, let me finish my sentence. So the reason for that is, yes, we've been going through essentially line by line, word by word in the ZAG meetings, and that's really an inefficient way to do this. So we have 2 weeks until, many months, it's a week after the planning board meeting because it's the first Thursday and the fourth Thursday, right? So some months that's a week apart. Fortunately, this month it happens to be 2 weeks apart. My plan is to send out an agenda tomorrow for the next ZAG meeting. And we've decided that we're going to work on the use table. Pat already provided comments on the use table, but we're going to work on the use table. So I'll send out that. And I'll also send out again, I'll make sure that we have available the red line version of what Nan submitted. I'd like to get through the entire use table in that meeting. And then try to break up the remaining pieces into. I don't think we can get it into one meeting, but maybe we can get it into two. So break the remaining pieces up and do the same thing in the following month, expecting people to make comments and get them back. And essentially be prepared at that meeting. So as we go through it, if there's sections that nobody has any comments on, we'll just jump right over. So instead of going through it word by word, but the expectation will be that people, when they show up at the meeting, will have already formulated the pieces that they want to provide input in and decide what we want to discuss, so that we're not going through this thing line by line, word by word. I mean, we're literally going through it word by word.
My only concern with that is to make sure that there's not going through it.
Right.
So, with all to you, we're not having a good conversation.
Well, and people can make comments, like, for example, Pat sent out her comments on the thing. That's perfectly fine, right? Saying, here's what I think the edit should be. I mean, it would be fine, it might be better if they sent them to me directly. Yeah. The key is we can't have, like, just sending out comments saying, here's the things I think need to change or that should be different. Saying that in an email is okay. Having a discussion about it does invite.
So that's where we have more.
So maybe I can have you come back to me and Nan, and I'll put a deadline on it so that Nan can incorporate them. But the idea, my plan is that as we go through these sections, if people haven't come back with saying they have comments on sections, we're just gonna go right by and say there were no comments on this. We're moving on. Because if there's things we agree on, why sit and discuss them and wordsmith them right as we go through those things. But I'd like to try to break this up so that we can finish the last pieces in no more than 3 seconds. If I can get it into 2, that'd be great. But I think there's going to be a fair discussion around the use table. That's why I think we should. And the use table is fairly big, but I want put an expectation that we're going to get through the entire use table and say.
Is that still phase 1?
Yes, this is all phase 1. That's the other piece, is that we need to make sure we keep this focused on phase 1 stuff, which, as we remember, was data storage, which we already did. There's battery storage in this, which we have some proposals on that. And then there's the definitions that were related to phase 1, which we finished going through. And then there's actual pieces of the code. And there's the thing is and there's some subdivision. I think conservation subdivision was part of this, but it's because it's part of housing, right? Yeah, because it relates to housing, is why it's in phase 1, right? So, anyway, that's where we are. I also I talked about this at the ZAG meeting, but I've also proposed that and I did talk with Nan about public outreach, and so I think the plan is that once we get through this red line and we come up with a major draft, with an actual draft of what we're planning on putting forward, that we would then have a public hearing sort of thing to be a reach out, but that it would go to the town board first. Just be sent to the town board, say, do you have any comments on this before we go to public? And then have a public meeting where people can weigh in on the things that are in that draft, and then come up with a final recommendation of what we're going to move to the town board. And that when we do that, that someone, assuming it's probably going to end up being Man or somebody, actually does a presentation, not just forwarding it in text and saying, here you go, here's what we think you should do, but that there's actually be a presentation done by somebody to the town board at one of the town board meetings to say, here's what we're recommending. This is all the stuff that's in phase 1. Here's what and why. Does that make sense? I mean, because we're still. I mean, even if you think about, even if we compress that to 3 meetings, I think we're still 6 months out, right? And I don't want to take another year to finish this phase. It's really what's the Language is not yet, but yes, if we continue on the path we were going, we would blow through her budget and we have to try to get one. But, yeah,
So I just have one question. So submit all the comments prior, or do we wait till the thing comes up and we ask if people have comments?
for the piece I'm gonna send out, ideally, if they were sent ahead of time.
The only reason I say that, sometimes someone will have a comment. Oh, it's a good point. Or as far as- Right. Right, definitely limiting, this- even with definitions, it was kind of going with definitions. I think we're.
Yeah, and there was, like I said, there was a lot of discussion around words. Yeah, I'd like to try to, again, I want to make sure that we get all the input that people want to hear. I want to make sure that we get this right. But on the other hand, the way we were going through it was really efficient. And, either we need to have more meetings, or we need to try to have people provide feedback and really kind of do this in between the meetings, so that we're not actually. To be honest, I think there were people in the meetings that were actually reading the stuff as we were. And I would like to try to avoid that.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you've said, Tony, and maybe the incentive is we got to get through things quicker. Otherwise, we will have more meetings. We might have to go to 2 a month, and that could be painful. So
it could be, and Pat, I appreciate your comments on the use table. So it's, I think if we can, if people can, so tomorrow you should get an email from me that has the agenda for this ag meeting, and with these comments of what's the expectation, right? And
yep,
you guys are okay with that, right?
I mean, I set up 2 computers so that I can walk through the definitions one at a time while comparing it to the use table. And that's how I found that we were missing, a dozen or so definitions from the use table. And then when I was in the use table, I also noticed, oh, we're missing a few definitions because they're in the use table. So then we have to have a discussion. Do they stay in the use table, or do we add a definition? And yes, if we're making that full, real time, it takes time. So it could, we could get through in one meeting, a good 2-hour meeting, but we'll see.
Yep, we'll see. It's tough though, because you don't want to override something that's mentioned elsewhere in the zoning code.
Right.
That's one of the Nan, in the conversation I had with Nan, that's one of the points we got into, is the fact that the hard part about this is zoning. Zoning is never like, it's not like a book where you start at the beginning and you read through, right? There's so much intertwined that you have to jump, so you get to one point, oh, you gotta go look at this over here because it relates to this over here, right? And then you have to go, right? There's so much of that in zoning that it makes some of this a little bit difficult to kind of, for people to get their heads around, right? So that's,
yeah.
And
I didn't say anything in my comments, but the use table starts off in alphabetical order, and then it kind of it moves. And I think everything's not in alphabetical order, and I didn't want Nan's head to explode, so I didn't say anything.
Well, but I think that's partly because the use table was created and then amended, right? And then they didn't bother to reorder things when it was amended, I think is what happened, but we'll have to see.
Yeah.
And in this case, we're rewriting everything, so, I think how the use table comes out in the end will be a whole new use table. Right?
Yeah, and if we want to keep track of what really changed versus what moved in the table based on the alphabetation, the alphabet order, you can always move it with track changes off and then turn track changes on to make your changes. So I just don't know how much you want to put Nan through making it in alphabetical order, but a reader might appreciate if it was in alphabetical order.
In sort of history, there were originally 3 sections of the allowable uses table: ag, resident, ag, business, and recreational and institutional. There were 3 sections last week. So that's why you get that 3 different places where there's alphabetized groups. We have to put those titles back into the allowable uses table.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if things were added to the right section of those, the 3 sections, so I didn't check on that, Ray.
But I think it's my first Dan, but as we're finishing this up, it's not it's gonna take, we should try to. Correct. So we have feedback from the town board on what we would like to see.
Well, we're gonna figure it out. Phase 2 was harder aspect of
Yeah, that was hard to hear. Sorry.
So phase.
Ray, can you turn your microphone a little more?
Yeah, so phase 2 would be broader issues like what we're doing with these larger agricultural type lots. We had some broad discussions about that early on. How many here during those discussions? Yeah, where we're just conceptually trying to come up. Could we come up with a model where, say, you, like I was saying earlier, I had 100-acre lot and subdivisions concentrated in one area, that as long as you kept open the rest, and these are sort of big picture problems I think we could take up in phase 2.
But I think it would be helpful to be very clear, so we put our we together as we're doing finishing the phase. So that's a gap in daily. So we kind of
right.
I think we need to have that discussion. I think we have a general idea of the town board for what phase 2 should be, but I'm not sure if phase 2 can be at all of the above.
Remember Johnson's, that's too much of one big question.
But that's
I think that's relates to housing. I think that's that.
Yeah, and the original idea was not to hit the heavy hitting topics up front, to get some steam, like, this isn't scary to change what meant to have all hanging fruit. Yeah.
But I don't think we want to finish this and all of a sudden, like, oh, we have to stop or kind of.
And I have asked.
It's a big project.
I have asked for input on phase 2. I have gotten no response.
Maybe we're going to do it.
Tony, just clarify, who did you actually need from us?
From the ZAG. I've asked the ZAG for input on phase 2.
And Gina put together a document that took the original scope, but subtracted what we've done in phase 1.
So I will, that document that you have there, I'll send it back out.
Yeah.
And I think I'll do it, so I'll do the agenda. But then after that, I'll send out sort of a phase 2 and say, here's the document that Gina did. Here's some of the input we have, like what Dan has said and others. Here's some ideas for phase 2. What do people think about it? Just ask for comments and have comments on those things. And I'm not really we'll just have those. All right. Well, I spent more time on that than I'm planning, but anyway, sorry. But and thank you for all your work on it. You know, this has been really kind of interesting going through this. I know Cheryl, you haven't seen it yet, but it's been kind of interesting going through all this stuff. Planning department update.
So I just want to announce that we got a $1.5 million CDBG grant for the Central Village mobile home community to extend public sewer out there. So this is in partnership with the properties, the owner. Probably the total cost will be about $2.5 million, but they'll provide that $1 million balance. or we at least brought in a successful CDBG. Great. And then.
They're not passes for other development.
Yep, no, we upsized the main, that was one of the costs is getting directional through. So we'll have future expansion capacity. So the first build out will be a private sewer, just to the mobile home community. But yeah, then the expansion potential is there. Are you gonna run water too? We're looking for funding for that. That's the next thing that. You might as well. Two birds with one stone. Yep. Yeah, we couldn't get it in the same grant cycle, but eventually this year we'll be applying for water, and sewer will be in design phase this year. Maybe we can get the converted established in 27. And then just, it's not too early, we're starting about the Planning Federation Conference. It's April 19 to 21. Some location in Cooperstown. So we got our training budget for the planning board bumped up to 2,500. And so that's ostensibly to cover up to 3 members attending. And the intent was those who didn't have an opportunity last year would get an opportunity this year, but it can be certainly provided. So just think about what better.
You didn't go last year. You didn't go last year. You did. Cheryl certainly didn't go last year. Oh, Cheryl, that's one thing I don't think when we talked, I mentioned this, but there is an expectation that planning board members get, is it 4 hours a year of training? There's lots of training available. One thing, this conference would give you more like 8 or 10 hours, right? It'd be a lot more than 4, but there's also a lot of, like I signed up for one the other day. It was they do these learn at lunch things that are Zoom things that you go on and get an hour credit for or whatever. So there's a number of things that the New York State Planning Federation and there's the other one is the town organization.
AOT, Association of Towns,
does some training things, and a lot of them are online. They're not things we have to travel for. Or the conference, of course, is something that's in Cooperstown, but the a lot of these trainings are an hour here, an hour there. But the expectations for actually is required. We're supposed to get 4. And actually, you can get 1 for, right? They can go.
We have been doing that.
Yeah. But the anyway, that's. I don't think I mentioned that when we talked. Okay. Sorry.
So great. Did she get that started on here? I sent out a bunch of materials, but not hard copies. If you want to, if you'd like hard copies of any of that, we certainly provide that. Right.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you. I try to keep everything in my field. Okay. So we will. So when we need to decide on that fairly soon.
Yeah, I would say February should be the time when we really start.
Yeah. But I think I don't know about that, but that's cool. Where that looks like. Okay. Town board update.
I think the status of the data center stuff, so I won't go over that. We did invest a lot of time in brain power and having votes next month on the new law, the local law that we have introduced. And that's kind of exciting. We'll be the first municipality in the state to move on this issue.
Dan, I don't think we're the first one. I think Rouse's Point is.
Say that again. What's that?
Rouse's Point had Rouse's ROUSES had a data center law in 2019.
They have a data center law. Huh, that's news to me.
I'm wondering why they would have even known that data centers would be such a challenge 6 years ago, because it's really popped in the last year when we realized. So I have to look that up. We had a really great presentation from David Weinstein about the unique natural areas, UNAs, last week. Last week seems like so long ago. I just bring that up because it's come up today, and I think it is really important to pay attention to these areas. And it got me thinking about Dryden Lake Dam, and how those parcels are both the drainage area of the dam and the municipal or the multi-use area are very detailed in the UNA inventory. And I immediately asked David for the entries for that, which he sent me that night, just in time to take to a meeting I had with Leah Webb, our state senator, about Dryden Lake Dam. And it added just another level of attention to what we're trying to do to protect Dryden Lake Dam in my meeting. And she took this issue very seriously. Just to refresh your memory, and we've had some back and forth with State Department of Transportation about whose responsibility the dam is. I think they really wanted to give it to us, hot potato. And we said thanks, but we kind of like the way things are, where you own the lake, you own the dam, and you have a 25-year agreement with the town about maintaining the integrity of the dam. That's in black and white, signed. And I think they were kind of taken aback that we didn't want the gift. But then they said, well, it's sure, you can maintain the current ownership arrangement, but we don't have money to do anything about it. And I thought, well, there's always money. It's just a matter of finding it. New York State certainly has accounts. And that was the feedback I got from Senator Webb. She was just like, just because they said that there isn't enough money in the so-called dam account that they use for every dam in New York State, and they allege that there's only 5 million in that for hundreds of dams. Because it doesn't mean we can't look elsewhere. And she was very encouraging in that regard, saying, I'm going to direct my staff, and I'm going to meet with central staff about this and where we can find funding for that project, because all that needs to happen is for DEC to order the project. They've already done the study on the engineering. They've had a consultant cost out the project. Every detail about this project's been costed out. It's $3.5 million. Kind of seems high, but perhaps they can find ways to get efficiency. So this was last Friday, and I'm kind of excited about that reaction that we got from our state senator. Personal, direct, very interested in helping us solve this problem. We work on a lot of things, but I think the things that are important to this group are things that are going to improve quality of life and expand, change how we use land and recreate. And the Rail Trail Task Force is moving forward with this Route 13 bridge. And had some exciting meetings and interactions with the Department of Transportation. We expect the final go ahead to the contractor's already been awarded to sign the contract. What was that next term? Sign the contract is the award where everything checks out. There's been so much back and forth with the DOT about this rail trail, but that's kind of exciting. And currently we're moving forward with a phase 3 plan for bringing rail trail up to Freeville and then over to the Village of Dryden. And we're preparing another TAP grant, tuition assistance, enhancing transportation. Sorry, it's late in the day. A TAP grant, transportation alternatives program grant. And that's going to be an ambitious project, probably about a $2 million project to make most of that trail a stone dust grade, ADA accessible, quality trail. It's going to be a big game changer. And if you've got a really dedicated pathway between this village and Freeville, ultimately a path down to Route 13's bridge, that's going to change how people view this community, I think. And decide to live, work, retire, raise a family, all those things. So we want this community. So we're working on that, this TAP grant. an exciting project. That's the gist of what I want to share. Thanks.
Any questions for Dave?
Hey,
Good.
Dan, I can project that Rouse's Point if you want to see it.
Do you want to project the trail? If you have it handy, that would be great.
No.
Oh. What are we doing?
Oh, they have a cryptocurrency law, not just a general data center law, because AI wasn't a thing. So theirs is just around cryptocurrency.
Yeah, okay. And it's banned, any sort of prohibition, okay. Well, good for them.
Yep. But that's specifically cryptocurrency.
And similar, it says, and similar data mining.
Yeah, but we'll still be the first town, Gina.
There we go.
Okay, we're after 8. It's well after 8. So let's try to finish this up.
Can I say one thing first? I'm sorry to interrupt, but there were some comments in the chat during the meeting, and those don't get preserved. So maybe when people want to make comments who are online, tell them to say them and don't put them in the chat.
That will be part of the recording, so we will have that.
It will be? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
The chat.
So it was in support of trillion words.
Yeah, I saw that chat. It will be part of the recording. We also received some emails. I think there was another email comment that came in the last couple of days. I think
Just remember the EMC one. Yeah, and Clark.
Yeah.
Happened a couple. Yeah.
So those will be included as well. Okay, 1023 planning board minutes. I sent those out. Everybody okay with them? Any comments on them? There's only that was one you. No, I was. So any comments on the planning board minutes?
Nope.
Motion to approve them? Yes. Well, I'll make the motion for. Bill, seconded. Okay. All in favor? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The 11-6, and so let's do the 11-6 ZAG minutes. Generally, I these at the ZAG meetings, but these are old. We couldn't approve them at the last ZAG meeting because quorum. So I mean, they're pretty simple minutes. They just say we discussed definitions and all that. Everybody okay? I'll move to approve those. 11-6. Frank seconds. Thank you. There, those are approved. And 12-4 ZAG.
Yes.
Okay. Pat move to approve those.
Or does she have comment? Do you have comments on those?
No.
I'll say Pat move to approve those. I'll second.
Yes.
All in favor? Good. So we got those done.
Yay.
Joy did send out the most recent meeting, but I'm not sure everybody's had a chance to read those. So we'll just do those at the exactly. That's it. Okay. And I think that's it. Anything else anybody has?
I'll just mention that I'm gonna have comments at the next couple of meetings, the spring will be.
Spring will be the town board. All right, cool. All right. Our next ZAG meeting is February 5th at 6 p.m. in the conference room. And our next regular planning board meeting is February 26th. Yeah, 26th at 6 p.m. here. Thank you all. We are adjourned. Tony, I'll invite a friend and make it longest.